panelists on the bottom right, I was trying to figure out, that's me, but I was trying to figure out how I can double my iPad, and that way I could actually look at y'all while I'm working on this, but it's okay. It's all right. Welcome to UXNight. Can you all see the slides?
I cannot, but maybe I'm not supposed to be the one seeing it.
Okay, just a moment.
If you want to show slides, press 2.
Press 2. For English, press 1. Porque dos?
Just press 2.
Oh, wait, hold on.
There you go.
For español, porque 9. I think I got it.
You got it.
All right, so there we go. And that's camera 1.
Yep.
Camera 2. Camera 1.
Okay.
All right, I'm just kidding. I saw somebody is here from Silver Lake, and that made me excited because I actually used to live in Silver Lake. So shout out to LA, and if anybody's from Florida, that I used to live in Florida as well. And I just want to go in here. Hello from Boulder, Colorado. Hello. Did snow happen on Halloween like it used to? I'll be in Colorado next week. So welcome to UXNight. I am Andy Galper, and I'm your host tonight. I'm the founder of Cascade SF. Cascade is a UX experience design organization. We cover all things experience design, from service design. Hold on, I'm just gonna real quickly before we get started, I'm gonna mute the so Stephanie and Joe, I love you both, but we're not quite ready for you yet. So I'm going to make you magically disappear right now. So stay tuned. How do I do this?
Spotlight yourself.
Okay. We have like four computers here right now.
There you go.
There we go. Awesome. Okay. And then camera 2. Wow. Awesome. And if you can turn off your video for right now, Stephanie and Joe, make sure that you're muted, and we will go ahead and get started. And I'm going to go over the agenda. And now that I have everything together, I even have a melodica. You hear that? That is, let's get started right now. So welcome to UXNight by Cascade San Francisco. As I mentioned before, Cascade is an experience design organization. We're based out of San Francisco, but we throw events around the world that you can access from your home or wherever your digital device is. And lucky for you, we do also have a YouTube channel where we post a lot of the videos. Lately, I've been actually cutting up the videos and making them into shorter clips and making them more digestible. So that way it'll save you time. You'll still learn all of the bits and pieces, and you can always attend the event for the full experience. Now, tonight is UXNight, and we're going to talk about responsible design tonight. Tonight is our 47th UXNight. So I have thrown over 150 something design events. We have mentoring events. We have all types of programs that help designers advance in their careers. And our biggest goal is, well, we have a couple different goals. One is to make sure that you, as a designer or somebody who works in technology, who creates products, has a fulfilling career. Number 2, that you're always learning and you're always growing. And number 3, that you're improving as a person, and you're becoming a better person in some ways, because the person that you are is what's reflected in the technology that you create. So keep that in mind, that even like, and when it comes to messaging or it comes to design decisions, all of our brains and our thought processes go into the actual design, and that it's not just a computer that's creating this design, it's people. So we have to make sure that we are being the best person that we can be, and that's going to be reflected on us. And also that's where we have the cascading effect, because as you create something for maybe like an organization like Facebook or LinkedIn, billions or millions of people are going to be using that product, and it's going to have an impact on their lives. And we want it to have a positive impact on their lives. We want to make their life easier with technology and allow people to do what they love. So my mission is mainly to bring everybody together and help us all create better experiences, learn and grow, and be the best person that we can be. And we're always improving. So nobody's ever, static. So thank you for the motivational speech tonight. Hope you enjoyed that. Moving on. So this is the schedule this evening. We're going to start off. Thank you for waiting. We had let's see. It's 5:18, so it's time to go, Joe. We're going to interview. Actually, I'm going to talk with Joe Toscano. It was really cool because just a few, it was maybe a couple weeks ago or maybe a month ago, I was watching Netflix and I was watching The Social Dilemma, and I was thinking to myself, do I need to watch this movie? I mean, it looks really cool and I hear people talking about it a lot, but I wasn't entirely sure that it made sense for me to watch it because I felt like, I already know everything in there, but that's the wrong attitude, actually. There's always more to learn. And not just that, I actually learned quite a bit from the movie, The Social Dilemma. And what I learned was, one, I saw Joe on the screen who spoke at a Cascade event, a UXNight. Actually, he spoke at our AI and privacy and ethics conference. It was a 4-night event after work. It was 2 years ago, Joe spoke at that. And then when he was talking on the screen, I was like, wow, he really has a lot of very important things to say, especially relating to consumer protection and consumer privacy and transparency. And the more that I talked with Joe, the more I realized wow, I'm excited to have a conversation with him on camera, so that way everybody who's watching this event can benefit from it. So welcome, Joe. And somehow I will unmute you. But first, I wanted to say a couple things. One is that Joe, he founded the Better Ethics and Consumer Outcomes Network, which is Beacon. And Beacon, as you see on the screen, it is a social innovation organization. It operates at the intersection of human-centered design, social impact, and public policy. So it's right in the theme. It fits really well in tonight. Joe also writes for Forbes, for Envision, Smashing Magazine, Adweek. He's definitely a thought leader. Yes, thought leaders are important. But no, he has a lot of really good points to make, and he cares about you. He cares about people, just like the other Joe, which we're not going to talk about because tonight is not a political night. We're here for everybody, whether you voted for Kanye West or Trump. No, I'm just kidding. That was kind of funny. But Joe also worked at different ad agent. Well, I think he worked at RGA or he worked at RGA. Is that the name of the place? RGA? I always get it confused, but anyway, and also he worked at Google for a bit as a product design consultant, and he'll tell you more about that stuff. You can follow him on Twitter at the Real Joette. Real Joette. Okay. And
I'm unmuted. I'm unmuted. Okay.
Unmuted. Yeah.
Real
Hold
Joe
on.
P.
Oh, Joe. The T is silent, huh?
Yeah. Real Joe
Okay.
T is my last name. It's so hard for so many people.
Toscano. Okay,
Yeah.
let me see if I can put you on camera, because John, my video producer / best friend who was actually speaking tonight, he went away for a minute, so I just have to figure out how to make you. Can you show your camera?
I cannot. It's blocked.
Okay. No.
You can't start
Yeah,
your because the host has stopped.
Oh, by the way, thank you all for coming out today. We have quite a few people in the chat. If you have any questions throughout the event, make sure to ask them. We'll have a Q&A section for you to interact directly with the speaker, and I'll moderate at the end of every segment. And I wanted to just mention really quickly that we started off with an interview with Joe, then Stephanie Lucas, who's a senior UX designer and a trust representative at LinkedIn. She's going to give a talk that includes the theme of tonight, which is about responsible design. She'll teach us about the framework they applied at LinkedIn to create responsible, so everybody has like a North Star to point to. And then at 6:30 p.m., John, Adams, Corey, and myself will play a game called Trick or Trust. And basically, we're going to go over dark patterns and we're going to explain solutions and whether or not we think this is a good idea that will enhance somebody's business, or it's actually like not the right thing to present to people in a UI. So, okay. Just one moment, please. And hold on. Hey, John. He left. I might have to go get him. No, Joe, don't rejoin as an attendee. Come back. Hey, thanks for waiting. 1 second. Let me go get John real quickly. Joe is all around us. Yes, he is. Thank you. Hold on just a moment. I don't know how to mute myself, and then also the camera on Joe. I need Joe to show his camera. We have control.
What do you mean?
I couldn't find it.
Whereas if he's not logged in anymore.
He's coming back.
He's not logged in.
Oh.
He's logged out. Panelist.
No. I wanted to see because he said he was an attendee. So
Not allowed to talk.
okay,
Say promote to panelist.
there we go. Not work.
He's gonna and then unmute him.
Mute. And then more video.
Yeah, and spotlight.
How do I do that? Can you guys hear me? Can you humans hear me?
I can hear you. I'm back in now.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I just gave you access. My friend has very fancy equipment, so either that or I'm just computer illiterate.
Well, he's not sending video.
Oh look, Jack Morrow is here. Hey Joe, can you turn on your video camera, please?
No, because you guys turned it off.
Oh,
So
we want to show you a beautiful face.
You made him a panelist. Right?
Yeah.
Change all attendees to video. What the hell? Why isn't he coming up? Speaker view.
How do I mute on here?
Here.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, and you can see me too, right?
Hi.
All right, great. Welcome, Joe. Yay. Okay, so for the sake of the video, let's just go ahead and set, and I'm gonna show that other screen really quickly.
Sure.
Do you see it on the screen? Oh yeah, here we go.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
The most nervous.
Interesting times, people, right? Okay, we'll be okay. All right, so this is a little information about Joe Toscano. He's the founder of Beacon, which is the Better Ethics and Consumer Outcomes Network. And it's an organization, a social organization that operates at the intersection of human-centered design, social impact, and public policy. And he's an author at multiple different online publications, including Forbes, Adweek, Smashing Magazine, and Envision blog. And he worked for Google for a bit as a product design consultant. And today we're going to talk about a couple of different things. We're going to talk a bit about Beacon, which is his organization, and what are his goals for his organization. We're also going to talk about The Social Dilemma, the movie that he was featured in, and also we'll talk a bit about consumer policy and privacy. Now, Joe, which one would you like to start with? You get your pick.
Oh, do I?
Yes. You want to go into the lessons first, or do you want to talk about the history?
I can give you a little bit of background on me. I think they're probably good for everyone.
That would be great. Very good. Go for it.
Anyway, started. Yeah, so as Andy mentioned, I am a former design consultant for Google. My whole career, so I've spent the last 10 going on 11 years as a blend between a developer and a designer. I did data science in college, so I'm a little bit different than most designers you probably met, because I didn't, have an MFA or anything like that. I knew design. I picked up art, all that kind of stuff, because my family there's a bunch of artists, and so it kind of just blended all together. And I built my career out of that. Ended up consulting for Google. As we'll probably talk about, I had some moral concerns with the things going on at the company. That's not to say that people at the company are evil. That's not my intent behind any of this work. It's that the system has some flaws and that they need to be fixed. And so I left. I wrote a book called Automating Humanity, which is all about the point that we are here at the point in history where we are automating everything that is human, but also we are at a point to which we can make that automation humane. So many people talk about us being locked out or never having a chance to catch up or any of these things. And I just don't believe that. I believe there's plenty of room for innovation and opportunity there. So my book is 4 parts. It's what the fuck is happening? How did we get here? What's going well? And last part, basically, how do we keep the good parts but mitigate or eliminate the bad parts? And yeah, so that was really awesome to release. It was so much work, I can't even tell you. I'm very proud of that work. And then I also created this company, which I've been working on for the last going on 4 years. By the way, Andy, that talk was 4 years ago. Think about that. Not 2, like we were talking.
4 years ago.
4 years, huh?
Oh yeah. That makes, well, was it like 2017? I think.
Going on
June,
4.5.
3.5 years. That's right.
But yeah, so anyway, company Beacon, the Better Ethics and Consumer Outcomes Network. The whole point of it being, what I learned in Google, if anything, is business. And what I really learned is how to change business by not arguing and complaining and screaming about how things need to be fixed, but figuring out how to make money. Okay, so Beacon, the Better Ethics and Consumer Outcomes Network, we take these ethical dilemmas, we translate them into consumer outcomes, because when it's a consumer outcome, it becomes a business problem, which we can then build a revenue model around. And that's what my work is focused on. I have the sentimental drive that I'm sure most of you do as well. I very much believe in the human rights and all these things, but let's be real with ourselves. If we want to make change in our lives, in our day-to-day consulting, in our work at a company, in our businesses, we're growing ourselves, it needs to drive revenue. And so that's what my work really focuses on. And because of all that and the grassroots actions that have accumulated over the last almost 4 years of traveling the world speaking, I also got introduced to the team filming The Social Dilemma and was interviewed for 5 hours, and I have about 2 minutes of clip in there. So, there's I can't imagine all the things they got to see in all their interviews. I'm sure it's really cool. Everyone that they had in the film and beyond. I know there were probably, I think they said like 20 or 30 people who didn't make cuts for the film. So yeah, very honored to be involved in that. There's a lot of discussion to be had around that, and I'm looking forward to what I believe will be that for the rest of our time here tonight with you.
Now, real quick, Joe, where is your book? Can we buy your book, or is it available online?
Yeah, it's on Amazon, or it should be.
Okay. All right, so we'll send out a link to everybody after the event. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, I haven't looked at it in a second, so I've been pretty swamped with stuff, but
that's okay. Congratulations, by the way. So let's go ahead and dive into the movie since The Social Dilemma. It's funny, my brother-in-law, he posted something on Facebook yesterday, and he's like, "Oh wow, I just watched The Social Dilemma, and that movie, it was very impactful, and now I want to be an activist." He's a psychologist who actually interviews police and firefighters and gives them lie detector tests. This is what he does. And that's what I loved about the approach to that movie, is that when I watched the movie, I wasn't sure that I would learn, because I've already been knee deep into design ethics. And there was a lot of really great information in there, like I mentioned before. And it's for everybody. And the biggest thing about that movie was, like, if you take somebody like my sister, who's an attorney, she said that she didn't want to watch that movie because she loves social networks and she didn't want to quit social networks. So how do you explain to people who are addicted to social networks or who love using social networks? How do you explain to them that it's okay to use Facebook and Twitter, and how do we inform them of best practices?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think also from the movie perspective, I'm probably one of the least radical in that sense. I believe there's a lot of value and utility in social media platforms. I do wish they had spoken to some of the benefits a bit more. But yeah, I mean, for example, the same research that they showed you on screen about how damaging it has been, and that's very real. In that same research, they found that, if you use social media in moderation, I believe the numbers was 10 to 30 minutes a day, it actually is shown to enhance your quality of life because of the connections that you make with others. The problem is that's not what the average user uses these platforms as. It's the average user is, I think, upwards above 40 minutes on Facebook platforms a day. So just on Facebook alone, they're beyond that moderation, and that's on average. Think of the skews beyond that, and then beyond that, you also have to think about the fact that the whole business model is built around garnering more and more of your attention. So the problem that I always come down to, that I explain to people and try to simplify as much as possible, is a misalignment of incentives, right? The same practices that are used online to push you towards different behaviors, nudge you, whatever you want to call them, those same practices are used by your personal trainer to make you, to help you get in better shape, right? Sometimes you need to be tricked a little bit to move towards a healthier direction. Sometimes you need to be pushed in ways you didn't really know you were getting pushed. That's just how human is. The difference is with like a personal trainer or even a psychologist, things like that. They are paid to take care of you. If a personal trainer burns you out, they're not going to have a client in the future. Or if they injure you, again, they won't have a client. They are financially incentivized to help you achieve your goals and to do it in a way that's healthy for you. The problem with like social media and algorithms, the way this is all working, is that those incentive structures couldn't be more different. They are not incentivized to take care of you. They're incentivized to take care of their customers, who are the advertisers. And so from a business perspective, I believe what these companies are doing from like a pure economic perspective, it is one of the most brilliant perfections of capitalism. It's almost absolutely predictable for the rest of history. The problem is, from a humane perspective, I think it's totally wrong. And so that's why I left, and that's what I talk about all the time.
It makes sense. And I actually agree with you about some, especially with the misinformation spreading and the way that, it infiltrated our political system, all the information, and it caused the election and all that nonsense. No, whatever, not nonsense, but it's very important to me. But it really does have a big impact on the amount of information that we feed into social networks really does have a big impact on our lives. But what about the fact that as I present more information about myself, I am matched with better quality products or things that might actually improve my life, like maybe a TRX or a fitness app or something that is more relevant to me than not knowing information and not knowing. Okay, so say that they didn't know anything about me, and they didn't have the data. Doesn't it completely transform the entire buying experience? And it's like less. It basically, okay, here's my point. I think that it has a benefit, a positive and a negative, and I think that they have to keep consumers happy and the people who use Facebook and Twitter happy. Otherwise, they're not going to use it, right? And you have to match it up you have to match up the products with the right people, or people like the advertising is ineffective.
Or it's less effective. But yes, I mean, I believe entirely what you're saying. I don't think advertisement as a business model is the worst thing in the world. We've had advertisement as a business model for generations. Propaganda, whatever you want to call it, it's one and the same. Micro-targeting has been around since the 60s. It's not a new thing to the world. I think that's also where my work kind of strays from the work of the social dilemma. It's why I probably didn't have quite as much time on camera, because I'm less concerned about the ads, although I do think that's problematic. I think it's problematic that their entire business model is ads, right? I would say the same about newspapers and broadcast and all that before as well. I think advertising as the only aspect of your revenue streams is a problem. It's just not creative business. A good business diversifies its revenue streams. So from that perspective, I just don't think it's good business, period. But I don't think ads and the way that they are displaying themselves to us are the biggest problem. We have, nuanced stories here and there of bad things that have happened from it. And I'm not trying to say that we should ignore those, but I think overarchingly, if you ask the population, they probably would say, like you, actually, these have helped me, or they've kept me on track of like, I need to do this or need to do that. So sometimes there are benefits. My grudge with it is more along the lines of how data is used to, one, create products that we don't even realize are being created and how we're not getting paid for them. Two, how this is a giant social experiment and there's no review boards, there's no checks and balances. It's just complete anarchy in the name of capitalism. And we are used as like ruthlessly used as data subjects. Because like I said, I did data science in college. I was a psychological researcher doing graduate level work as an undergrad. I got paid to do it back then. I just had problems with the way some of those things were run. If you look at, for example, the Stanford prison experiment, which is famously known to be one of the largest abuses of human rights in psychology research and caused many of the actions that led to the creation of IRB board or review boards, sorry. I believe what we're seeing now, the lawlessness, the lack of guardrails on the industry, will be looked back similarly. I believe we are experiencing what is a huge human rights abuse. And we, as UX designers especially, have a responsibility to fix that. At least
I love that, by the way. Like, and obviously, well, I'm pro business as well, but I do believe in respecting everybody. I believe in like Seth Godin, permission marketing. And I just like our goal tonight actually is to find out different ways to get permission and be more clear and transparent. But one thing that we talked about prior to this event was about data collection. And I was wondering, from your perspective, how much data should a company collect on a user of their product?
Yeah, I thought that was a pretty interesting question too. And it's not an uncommon thing for me to get questions like that. The truth of it is I can't tell you a number as to how much, right? The reality is nobody actually knows how much data is even collected in the first place because of the opaqueness of the industry. So I think just getting that to happen, having reports as to what and how much is being collected is a good start. So then we can say, what's reasonable, what's not. But the actions of it, right? The actual day-to-day, what can we do today? I think it's important that we start to think about, similar to how we think about products, right? The MVP, the minimum viable product, what can we get out the door and work with and move forward and make money with, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's important that we start to think of what we're starting to hear in the industry is minimum viable data, MVD, and it's a thing that people are talking about in the data protection world and beyond, and even some of the lawyers that are drafting this legislation, and that's not just like a spiritual hoorah that we need to collect less data about people. It's actually a business thing, if you are collecting less and more focused data, you have less data to store on your storage or any of your any of your cloud servers, things like that. You have less space being taken up, which means you don't need as many, and which means you're going to reduce your financial overhead as a business. If you collect it in a way that is transparent and you earn people's trust, research shows you're going to get deeper access to data, more intimate data. And so if they trust you, you can do better things as a business. You have deeper access to things, and people are more likely to share things, sometimes things they wouldn't regularly share. So you're going to get better data from that perspective. You're also going to get more accurate data, because if people trust you, they're not going to be putting in fake emails and fake birthdays and fake this and fake that or duplicates. They're going to give you the real thing. How many of you on here, I guess I can't see hands, but we've all put in spam@gmail.com, you know what I'm saying, to not have something track us. Well, what if we had trust in that company instead? So you get less data means less overhead costs for infrastructure. More accurate data means better analyses, better products, better solutions. It also means, better data also means less having to hire data scientists to go hygiene your data and reorganize it and get rid of duplicates and all these things. There are financial reasons to do these beyond just a sentimental hoorah.
Yeah, that is a really awesome point about the idea that we are just collecting infinite amounts of information, and all this information and this data is stacking up, but it's like, well, do we need all of this? And so I would love to learn more about the minimum viable data. Like that sounds like a really great theory framework, like minimal viable product. What is the minimum amount of information that we need to be able to answer our questions and give people what they need? I love it. Okay, and let's talk about, transparency. I know you're a big believer of transparency. And what do you think about the data practices? What do you think about the data collection practices for something like an open source technology?
In what aspect? There's still a company still collecting data. I suppose there's the argument, well, they're open source. Well, that doesn't mean anything to me, because the only people who can actually understand what that means are technical people. So it's not really transparency unless I know how to read code. It's I don't know, what aspects are you specifically interested in?
Well, I was thinking actually more along the lines of, this is everybody's project. They're all working together. And is it everybody's data when it's suddenly public like that? Everybody gets to share the information. Should it still be limited?
Yes. I'm not certain I understand the question. So you're asking if the product or service is open source and you have a bunch of people who are not tied to one company, should the data still be owned by the individual?
In some ways, like, what are the best practices when you're working with a group of people on an open source project, or you're actually accessing like a GitHub page, it's an open source project? What are the best practices for data collection and storage?
I mean, I think it's no different than a private product,
Yeah.
You still need to protect people's data. You still need to be transparent about it. From an actual ownership of data perspective, I do believe that's still the right of the individual who creates that data, because that data is effectively labor for a platform. I mean, tell me, if you were to build a machine learning algorithm, how do you train it?
And give them information, and all the information that I give it, it will feed
Data,
off of
right?
me and then become smarter and then become something else,
Data.
probably, right?
And if you don't have data, you have to go create it. So imagine if Google wanted to create Google without all of us creating data for Google, Google would have to hire billions of people to create data. Google wouldn't exist if they didn't have our free labor building that product, right? This goes for many companies. So I'm very much an advocate of people should at least get a cut of that. I don't think that it's a different thing, but than complete ownership. That's hard to do at this point, but it's very easy to track enough to start paying people a bit. The Facebook has come out and said that our data is worth upwards of $8 per person in the United States. Okay. That, we got to assume Facebook is a behemoth and our data, it gets used more through Facebook than a lot of places. So $8 is probably the high end of what our data is worth. But let's say your data is worth 10 cents on average, and it gets used by 50,000 companies that year. That means that you, at the end of the year, should be getting a paycheck that comes out to about $5,000. That's not going to be livable. You're not going to live off that cash. But I think we could all use an extra $5,000 in our pocket. No one's going to argue.
Now you sound like Andrew Yang. No, which is a great thing.
I actually, so that's where I agree with his sentimental argument. I don't agree with the way he's approaching it because I don't believe in UBI. I believe this is labor. We should be paid for our labor. And if done well, I believe data creation will be the blue collar job of the future. It's not something that requires a PhD to participate in.
Or you create it and you own it in your own blockchain. Yes, I said that buzzword. Yeah.
Possible.
go blockchain. No, seriously, I love the theory behind like actually owning all your information and being able to like lock it up and then just I think you have some really awesome points there. Okay, before we go into Q&A, we have a comment from Sarah Springer that says she loves the money arguments for collecting less, better data. She loves the money arguments for collecting less data and making sure that it's better. I agree with that. And we get to that by asking better questions. And understanding what we need first. So that's all like the whole design thinking thing. Okay, let's talk a bit about transparency. All right. We'll talk about terms of service and agreements. Who do you think does the terms of service in the industry? Who does it right, and who needs improvement?
Well, it depends what you consider right. From a legal perspective, literally no one does it right. Actually though, and that's a problem both for the companies and from the lawmakers. Lawmakers created a law that is unenforceable, so that's a problem in itself. But who do I think is doing well? I think Zoom actually has one of the more thorough and transparent policies. They don't give you control the way that I think they should do it, but they are one of the most transparent. They will tell you what data point they're collecting, at which point they're collecting it, what it's used for, and the legal business use case for it. That is more than 99% of the internet will do. So from a perspective of moving forward, I think they're taking big steps. And we can probably be guaranteed that that's because Zoom blew up this year and they got huge scrutiny. So this is again why the social dilemma, the movie, and all these conversations are important because, and that's why I left too, is I knew these changes were not going to change internally, right? This was not going to be an internal financial decision. It needed public demand. And that's where we're hitting. And you can see it in the way that Zoom has reacted. I think Airtable also has a very unique experience. It's one of the few that I've ever looked at. I've been studying policies, privacy policy, term service, cookies, all of them for the last few years. Airtable is one of the few in the world that actually lays out all of its security certifications and lets you dive into them and understand why they're important and what they do for the company, how often they expire, when they were recently updated, things like that. That's huge. Probably none of us know how to read what that actually means in detail, very few people probably do, but the fact that they offer it and they can tell me, yeah, we just recertified in June, that's a huge thing in terms of trust.
Who do they certify with?
I don't know the list.
Recertify. Yeah.
10 of them that they actually have like all their certs listed.
Yeah.
I've seen others. It's very standard from what I've seen. And I'm not a security guy. I'm a privacy guy. So
yeah.
They're two coins.
We do have a security guy here. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But security is much more technical versus privacy is much more cultural. I guess that's how I frame it.
Interesting. And also, well, plain language and communication skills. It sounds like the companies. Do you think that it's a content strategist or a lawyer who is creating these terms of services?
Oh, mostly it's lawyers. Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head that has like good content strategies. Snapchat actually had, last time I saw it, pretty decent agreements that were like accessible. I think also Snapchat, or who was it I had marked down? It's one of the few that offered at the time a kind of like a transparency center, which is actually written in like layman's terms. So yeah, there's all these unique offerings I've found of different websites, different services, but who's doing it overarchingly, like as a holistic ecosystem of privacy? Almost none of them. So,
So we have so much opportunity to innovate in that area and also make, define a new feature. Yeah. And okay, so we have what time is it? We are at 5:55, which we're a little bit over time right now, which is okay, because we started a few minutes behind, thanks to yours truly. And I wanted to ask you a little bit more about Beacon, your Better Ethics and Consumer Outcome Network, and what some of your goals are for the next year or two. And if you want to share anything along those lines about Beacon, go for it, Joe.
Yeah, thank you. I would love to. I mean, so Beacon in and of itself, really, as we got it going, was to provide resources for technologists to come and build what, like the name says, a better ethics and consumer outcomes network, a network of people who are focused on driving this work forward. So if you do go to our site, it's beacontrustnetwork.com. We currently have the initial offerings of our resources. You can go to the resource tab. We have differences of non-technical person, technical person, policymaker, parent. And so it's like you can kind of find the resource you're looking for and then filters within each of those to help you do your work better, protect your family, whatever it is you want to do. But then on top of that, we're also creating software solutions. And we've been heads down on our first solution, which will be running into private beta here in the next couple of weeks, all focused on creating better policies. We are creating a solution that is it's going to get rid of the privacy policy, terms of service, cookie, all of that in favor of one overarching policy center where you can get all of that information, remove the redundancies, make it in layman's terms, and also have a experience that is contextually or progressively disclosed rather than a 30-page PDF that no one can read. And we are starting focused on small businesses. So it is not a solution for enterprise, and we know that. It's for SMBs, small, medium-sized businesses, B2C companies who want to provide a better experience for their customers and want to lead the way in this new paradigm shift. So if you want to look at that, you can go to our site, beacontrustnetwork.com, or to go directly to the product, you can go to pulsepolicy.com. Both of those are spelled just like they should be. There's no funky letters or anything. So pretty, hopefully easy to find.
And I'll send a follow-up with all the links and URLs and everybody's contact info that they provide, that all of our speakers provided tonight. And because we only have room for a couple questions, because I knew this was going to be such an engaging, awesome conversation. I want to keep going, but we're going to have to pause because we have a schedule tonight. I want to turn it over to my friends there in the audience. And I have, okay, so if you are in Zoom right now, you'll see a little, on the menu bar on the bottom of the screen, you'll see a Q&A with the icon. If you want to ask a question, now is the time. Ask a question to Joe, now is the time. So we are waiting for your questions. Otherwise, I'm going to ask one more. You have 1, 2, 3. Okay, it's my turn. Joe, I get to ask you one more question. Ready?
Yep.
Okay. All right. All right. Wait. You see somebody? Okay. What do you think that we were talking a little bit about the government and, that these giant tech companies like Facebook and Amazon and Twitter, Google, all the, the big five, I guess, they have so much power and so much information on everyone and around the world, and so much money as well. Now, who should be the person or the people, or who should regulate data monopolies?
Federal government is the one who acts on data monopolies. Yeah, that's what's happening right now.
And do they have any, but the biggest issue that I actually am very passionate about politics and the government and just trying to find like the best solutions for, democratizing information. However, somebody who I love dearly, I love like Elizabeth Warren, and she has the right heart and the right like mindset to try and do the best thing for the average Joe Toscano, Joe Schmo. But she doesn't necessarily have the tech knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if maybe there's room. Do you think that there's room for what kind of people should be making the decisions to regulate monopolies, and should they actually have another branch maybe of government that manages all the information?
Yes, I do think we should have another branch added. Maybe not another branch, but a new agency added. Not another branch. But yeah, I mean, Prop 24, I haven't read the whole thing yet. I've talked to several of my friends who have read some of it. There is a data protection agency in there. So 2023, California will have the first data protection agency. I'm interested to see how this election turns out. I mean, I know who I want to see in, and I believe he has already won, but we're going to see how the coming weeks go. And I do believe if Biden is in office, we will see some of those come at the federal level. Very excited about that opportunity. I am pretty certain that's going to happen. And yeah, so, I mean, I think ultimately we need federal and state level understanding of this. We need both of those levels to have their own agencies and respective representatives. I guess story to end it on, right? And I hope everyone takes this same sentiment away from here. When I left a few years ago, right before I left, I was actually awarded the Early Achievement Award from the university I graduated from. I was fourth youngest to ever win it. It was great, super cool. But at those events, they have chancellors, presidents of the university, successful alumni, stuff like that. And of course, they want you to stand up in front of the stage and answer some questions. And the question they gave me was, "What do you love about your job?" And I was 3 weeks from leaving my job at that point, so I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell them how much I didn't like it. I wanted to tell them all the things I'm doing to change things. But I decided, out of respect, to not take that moment to do that. And instead, I froze. I turned red my face kind of like viscerally gnarled because I like twitched and I didn't want to answer it. And what I ended up saying after thinking about it for a second was that what I loved about my job at Google and what I still love about my work today and what we all have the opportunities. I walked in that door every day and represented the rights of billions of people around the globe. I believe that us as experienced designers, engineers, whatever, we have now become what effectively is public servants in these companies, especially as they grow and become very large scale. And I think we have a responsibility to respect those people's rights. So I think you need to have impact at the federal level, the state level, and locally within the businesses themselves. And we are all responsible. And I hope that that's a message that everyone can take away from this.
I love it. I love it. That was beautiful. Absolutely. And that's why we're here, to get better. Okay, so I know that you guys asked, a bunch of people asked questions after the time limit was cut off. And unfortunately, we won't be able to make it to those questions right now, but perhaps we can get your questions answered and send an email with a follow-up if we have a few minutes after the event. Or I'll just,
follow up. That's an easy way to get me. Don't do Twitter or Facebook or wherever, Instagram.
Yeah.
I have them, don't use them. So LinkedIn's where it's at. I'll try to respond there or email me.
Oh yeah. And email you at joe@beacontrustnetwork.com. Yep. Correct? Okay. And you guys, I say you guys, I mean, you ladies, you gentlemen, you people, humans of all colors, shapes, and sizes. Thank you. Thanks, Joe, so much. Everybody, I would love to see some engagement in the chat room. Let's give it up for Joe.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Joe. Awesome. And John, John Hull, good to see you, by the way. Some of the questions that you asked were answered earlier, and we'll make sure that you have a full answer in a bit. Hi, Jack Morrow. Good to see you too. Jack is my boyfriend, by the way. Woohoo! Yeah. All right. Now, what do y'all think about that? I'd love to just hear a little bit about. Here, I'm looking in the chat. On my screen. All attendees. Hello. What did you think? Great job, Joe. Yes, 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 yes. Okay. Thank you, Joe. Oh, I guess we should move on to the next one then. Anne. Well, since I asked a question, then it will get answered in a few minutes. I'm looking forward to the answer. And okay. Now let me enable Stephanie's screen. Stephanie.
Hey.
Hi.
I can hear you.
And guess what? We can see you. 1 second. I'm just making. You should be able to turn your screen on now.
I can.
There we go.
Hi.
There we go.
Yay.
Okay. And also, can you go ahead and request? Oh, that was awesome. Thank you, Kim. Kim, where are you from? You look familiar, actually. Wait. I know Kim. I'm like Navanti. Hello. I don't know if I said your name right, but whatever. Sorry. Anyway, all panelists and attendees. There we go. Yes, you know me, of course. Good to see you. Great to see you. Okay. Do you have anybody here from the East Coast on the chat room? I'm just curious. East Coast represent. Okay. Well, anyway, let's move on. So I would like to introduce you to Stephanie Lucas, one of my favorite people to follow on Twitter and interact with on Twitter. Stephanie is a political passionate. She's very passionate about politics and policy.
I'm looking
And-
forward to not
and-
being passionate about politics
Yeah.
in the near
And-
future.
I know. It's like, yeah, exactly. But I feel like, well, COVID kind of brought out I became a gardener and well, always like a million hobbies, you know, but I feel like with that, it's like Trump plus gardening plus music plus art. Let's get rid of Trump. Sorry, I don't mean to bring politics into this, but I just did. So I do mean to do that. But anyway, okay. One moment. I have a screen really quickly and full disk access. I don't know. Okay, I'm ignoring that. All right, Stephanie. So
I'm here.
Okay, I'm going to start this intro over. You ready?
I'm ready.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to Stephanie Lucas. Stephanie works at LinkedIn as a UX designer, and she also focuses on trust and responsible design. And she and her team created a framework about responsible design to improve and push ethics and try and keep the users front and center. And Stephanie is also very passionate about teaching ethics. She guides designers and she mentors designers on how to create safer, more effective products. She teaches all kinds of workshops at CCA, Northwestern, and many UX groups, including Cascade SF. And also beyond reading this, she's been featured on different podcasts, and she spoke at the Button Conference a couple weeks ago, which she was very excited to share about. I'm guessing that's about call to actions.
No, actually, I don't even know why they call it Button. This is a content design conference.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, that's why. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why. Because it's all, when you create a button, it really comes down to like, what is it why should I click on this? And that's
Yeah.
what the purpose of a good button is.
Yeah, I'm new to the Button community, so I don't really know. All I know is that the official food of this Button conference was tacos.
Oh, I love tacos, so I'm going next year.
Yes.
So although didn't even have it. Did you even have? Did they send?
No, we shared pictures of tacos from our house.
Oh, that's so cute. That's awesome. Oh yeah. Back in. Okay. So anyway, so Stephanie, I'm going to pass the screen over to you.
I've got my mitt. I'm
Full
going to catch it.
control.
Okay.
And I'm going to press mute. I'm going to hide out and listen to your talk. And I'm really excited to learn about how you at LinkedIn design a responsible framework. I use LinkedIn all the time. I use it for networking, to study job descriptions and learn about what the industry is looking for. It's just what LinkedIn Learning is the best. The community on there is really fantastic. And I mean, I have some great friends there who work on the growth team. And I find it interesting to learn about like, how can you promote growth and connection while still maintaining a healthy, responsible, well, okay, sorry.
That's been a journey for us too, by the way.
Yeah. So how can you promote growth? How can you improve like the connections that people have, yet still respect them? And that's what even, not all of the answers will be given tonight, but I'm sure that Stephanie's going to have a lot to share, and I can't wait to learn from her. So everybody give it up for Stephanie Lucas.
Awesome.
Yes.
Thanks so much.
You're
So
welcome.
hi, I'm Stephanie Lucas. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, if you'll bear with me for a moment. And I'm going to press play. Don't look at my other slides. Okay, here we go. First of all, before I start, I just want to say thank you everybody for voting. Thank you so much. I know people that I had to drag somebody that wasn't registered to register. So good job, everybody. We really, the turnout was unheard of. So to all of you who voted, thank you. So hi, I'm Stephanie Lucas. I'm Trust Design Rep at LinkedIn. I have worked at LinkedIn for, about 9 years now. And actually, side note to Joe, I'm a super big fan of privacy and a big privacy nerd as well. So I've only worked in the trust product of LinkedIn for about 6 years, but it rapidly, as soon as I touched it, it became the part of the product that I wanted to invest myself in, and I've never looked back. So I'm actually now the trust design rep. So I help consult with teams on that, and I will tell you more about that before we're done. So let's talk about the importance of ethics principles framework, and actually why it's good business, and how we built it. So I don't know if everybody recognizes this image, but this is one of my favorite ethics parables of all time. This is Horton Hatches the Egg. This is Horton the Elephant. It's a Dr. Seuss book. Hopefully you've all had a chance to enjoy it, and maybe it's worth taking another look at it, because it's actually a really great story, and I think a lot of adults could learn from it too. But it's basically Horton the Elephant. He has a friend who's a bird named Maisie. That's his friend, and Maisie has one egg in her nest, and she is sitting on the nest and trying to hatch the egg, and she kind of reaches the breaking point. She's like, I've got to get out of here. I want to break. I want a quick getaway. And she talks to Horton and says, I need a break. I'll be right back, but can you just watch my egg while I'm gone? And Horton says, of course, because Horton's a very good friend and he's got a good heart, and he promises he will sit on this egg until she gets back, which was supposed to be just in a couple of days, but it ends up being months. And Horton finds out that he's kind of gotten the raw end of this bargain, but he still stays on that egg through rain and snow. He gets kidnapped by hunters and sold to the circus, and he still stays on that egg right to the end. And his sort of mantra that he says throughout the book is, I meant what I said what I meant, an elephant's faithful 100%. And this is, this lone voice for ethics parable that, I don't know, it really stuck with me. I never forgot it. This is what happens when somebody knows what's right, they stand up for it. And they want to, they have a conscience. So as designers, my drumbeat is that we are optimistic people. And I don't know if everybody on this call is a designer, maybe you're a product partner, product manager, maybe, excuse me, maybe you're just looking to get into design or into products. Either way, probably you're doing this because you think you can do products that make people's lives better, right? Like we like to believe we would be Horton. We would sit on that egg through all of that because we know what's right and we're going to fight for it. And we are being told externally from all of the design community that you have to fight for what's right. Well, but the reality is that we work in our day to day in a universe that thrives on and rewards one thing, and that's shipping, right? Shipping is the thing that impacts your compensation, your recognition, and not shipping, not throwing an obstacle to shipping could result in making things really unpleasant for you, and potentially, maybe even impact your job security. So there's that kind of tension there that makes the lone voice, kind of model it just not scalable. Like everybody, let's just say we have a bunch of different Hortons. Different Hortons are going to have different lenses for how they look at ethics, and that makes your conversations about your product decisions just messy and inefficient, and a lot of times expediency wins out, and expediency, of course, as we know, can lead to some unfortunate product decisions. And we've seen, and Joe was talking about this too, we've seen the results of not thinking things through, of not thinking about unintended consequences, unintended harms, and look at what some of the things that we've encountered just over like the last 4 years. We're long overdue in addressing accessibility. The Me Too movement was something that was phenomenally painful for a lot of people. Cambridge Analytica, of course, goes without saying. Gamergate, I don't know if everybody remembers Gamergate, a lot of online bullying there. Online harassment, and then conspiracy theories, things that impact elections, societies, and now we're even seeing, it impacts broad public health policy. So I'd like to talk about the importance of principles and why they can make this whole thing a little more focused and a little more efficient. and get you to the right place more often than not in an easier way. So there's 4 photos here of things that you may or may not recognize what they are, but you know, humankind has recognized for millennia that, you know, having a set of principles, a set of rules to help guide you navigate decision making are kind of gotta have it. Upper left is a Hippocratic oath. You know, the doctors that take, you know, that says, you know, it's a lot, but the memorable part is, you know, first do no harm. Upper right, purportedly a photo of 10 Commandments. Lower left, the Geneva Conventions. Lower right, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Both of those last 2 were artifacts of humanity wanting to remedy the atrocities of World War II. But more recent example, if you're familiar with this crew, most of you probably are friends in the Star Trek verse. And of course, you know, if you've